Welcome to my channel Exposed-SecretsTales. Your one click means everything to me. Please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. I'm Clara. Her voice trembled slightly, as though she knew the weight of the story she was about to tell. I've been married for 7 years, and I thought I understood love, trust, and family. But I was wrong, very wrong. Clara had always been the steady one, the woman who kept her home warm, her marriage steady, and her heart loyal. Her life with Daniel, her husband, had been predictable but safe. That was until one early autumn evening, when Daniel casually mentioned over dinner, "My brother Liam will be staying with us for a while. Just a few weeks." It seemed harmless at the time. Clara had met Liam only a handful of times before, at holidays, birthdays, quick family gatherings. He was Daniel's younger brother, a man with a quiet smile and eyes that seemed to notice more than they should. He had a way of standing back, watching, almost as if he was storing away little pieces of the people around him. When Liam arrived, carrying just one worn leather duffel bag, Clara was struck by how much he had changed. He was broader in the shoulders, more assured in the way he carried himself. His voice was deeper, but still gentle. He hugged her in greeting, and for a moment longer than expected, his hand rested against her back before pulling away. She thought nothing of it. At first, the first week passed without much fuss. Liam was polite, helpful, and surprisingly easy to have around. He made Daniel laugh more than she had seen in months, often staying up late with his brother in the living room, talking in low voices. Clara would pass by on her way to the kitchen and catch Liam glancing at her, not in an obvious, bold way, but as if he was studying her when he thought she wouldn't notice. One rainy evening, Daniel announced he had to leave for an overnight work trip. "It's just one night," he said, kissing Clara's forehead. Liam stood in the doorway behind him, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. The silence after Daniel left was heavier than Clara expected. She busied herself in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for a simple dinner, when Liam appeared beside her, reaching for a glass from the cupboard. Their arms brushed. It was such a small thing, but it made her breath catch. They ate in the soft hum of rain against the windows. At one point, Liam's gaze lingered too long, his voice lower than usual when he asked, "Are you happy, Clara?" The question startled her. "Of course, I am," she replied quickly, though her voice didn't sound convincing even to herself. He gave a slow, almost sad smile. "I'm not sure Daniel sees what he has." The rest of the evening was quiet, but the air between them felt charged, as though something unspoken had been set in motion. Later, when Clara went to bed, she found herself lying awake, listening to the faint sound of Liam moving about in the living room. She told herself it was nothing, just the mind playing tricks. But in the dim light, she thought of his eyes, the way they seemed to see through her, and the question he had asked. The next morning, Daniel called to say he'd been delayed, another night away. Clara's heart skipped without reason. That evening, she found herself lingering in the kitchen again. Only this time, Liam stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Clara," he said softly, "there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time." Her pulse raced. She should have told him to stop, to keep his distance. But she didn't move. Liam's eyes held hers. And then, without warning, he stepped back. "I shouldn't," he said, his voice strained, "but I need you to know. I've noticed things. Things Daniel doesn't see, and I can't pretend anymore." Clara's hands tightened around the edge of the kitchen counter. "What are you talking about, Liam?" she asked, though a part of her wasn't sure she wanted the answer. "You've been carrying this marriage on your own," he said quietly. "You've been holding it together while Daniel drifts. And I hate watching it happen." Her chest tightened. The words felt dangerous, as if spoken too loudly they might break something beyond repair. "This isn't your place," she whispered. "I know," he admitted, looking down for a moment. "But that doesn't change how I feel when I see you." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft ticking of the kitchen clock. Clara's thoughts tangled guilt, confusion, and something she didn't want to name. That night, she avoided sitting in the same room with him, staying in her bedroom with a book she couldn't focus on. She told herself she needed space, but her mind kept circling back to his words. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee. When she stepped into the kitchen, Liam was there, pouring her a mug without asking how she took it, and yet, it was exactly the way she liked it. "You didn't have to," she began. "I wanted to," he cut in, his tone simple but steady. She sat across from him, sipping in silence, Something about the small gesture felt intimate, more intimate than it should. The day passed slowly. The rain had cleared, leaving the air crisp, but Clara felt restless. She went outside to the small garden behind the house, pruning a few flowers, just to keep busy. She didn't hear Liam until he was beside her, his presence warm against the cool air. "Clara," he said again, softer this time. "Why are you still with him?" She froze. "Because I love him," she replied quickly, but even as she said it, the words felt fragile. "Do you?" His question hung in the air, heavier than the autumn clouds above them. She turned to face him, ready to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't arrogance or selfishness. It was something else. Something she didn't dare define. The front gate creaked suddenly, making them both step back. It was only the mailman, but the moment had been shattered. That evening, Daniel called again. "Another late night," he said, his voice distracted. "Don't wait up for me." Clara didn't reply right away. She glanced at Liam, who was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, watching her with that same unreadable expression. When she hung up, Liam's voice was almost a whisper. "Clara, I think you deserve to be seen." She didn't know what to say. She only knew that his words had left her breathless. Later, as she lay in bed, she heard footsteps pause outside her bedroom door. She held her breath, half expecting a knock. But instead, the steps moved away, fading into the stillness of the house. The next morning, she found a note on the kitchen counter in Liam's handwriting. Just 5 words. "We need to talk. Tonight." Her hands trembled as she read it. Her hands trembled as she read the note. All day, Clara couldn't shake the weight of those 5 words. She went about her usual chores, folding laundry, preparing lunch, watering the plants, but her mind kept drifting back to the counter, to the note lying there like a quiet promise or a warning. By evening, the house felt different. Daniel hadn't called all day. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across the living room, and the ticking of the clock seemed louder than usual. Liam appeared just as she was setting a plate of food on the table. "You don't have to make dinner for me," he said, though his tone wasn't casual. "I would have made it anyway," she replied softly. They ate in near silence, only the sound of forks against plates filling the air. When the meal was over, Liam didn't leave the table. Instead, he leaned back, watching her with that steady gaze that made her pulse race. "Clara," he began, "I'm not here just to visit, at least, not anymore." She frowned, her heart thudding. "What do you mean?" "I came because I needed time away from my own life," he said slowly. "But the truth is, I stayed because of you." Her breath caught. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. But the words wouldn't come. "I've seen how you live, Clara," he continued. "You give, and Daniel doesn't notice. Or maybe he just doesn't care enough, too." Her eyes stung. "That's not fair." "Maybe not," Liam admitted, his voice low. "But it's the truth, I see. And I can't ignore it anymore." She stood, needing distance, but he followed her into the kitchen. His voice softened. "I'm not asking you for anything. I just needed you to know how I feel. Because if I left without saying it, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." Clara's chest tightened painfully. "Liam, this can't happen. You're Daniel's brother." "I know," he said again, his eyes shadowed with something deep. "But sometimes the heart doesn't care about the rules." The words lingered in the air, long after he left the kitchen. That night, Clara tossed in bed, her mind a storm of guilt and confusion. She couldn't deny the truth. Part of her felt alive in a way it hadn't in years. But admitting that would be dangerous. At some point, she drifted into a restless sleep, only to wake at the sound of muffled voices downstairs. She checked the clock. It was past midnight. Pulling on her robe, she crept halfway down the stairs. Daniel had come home unexpectedly. His voice was low but tense. "So, this is why you're still here, Liam." Liam didn't answer immediately. When he did, his tone was calm but firm. "I'm here because you've taken Clara for granted for too long." Clara froze. Daniel's voice sharpened. "Don't bring her into this." "She's already in it," Liam replied, "even if you can't see it." The air between them crackled with something unspoken, and Clara's heart pounded so loudly she feared they'd hear her on the stairs. Then Daniel's next words made her blood run cold. "Maybe you should just leave tonight." The words hung heavy in the air, but Liam didn't move. His jaw tightened as he met his brother's gaze. "If that's what you want," he said quietly, "I will. But ask yourself, Daniel, Why it's easier to push me out than to face the truth about your marriage. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know enough, Liam replied. Enough to see what you've stopped seeing. Clara's fingers gripped the railing of the stairs until they ached. She wanted to step in, to calm them both down. But fear kept her rooted in place. Daniel finally broke eye contact, running a hand through his hair. This isn't about her, he muttered. It's always been about her, Liam said, his voice low but certain. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Daniel turned away, muttering something about needing sleep, and walked toward the stairs. Clara hurried back to her bedroom, slipping under the covers just in time to hear him come in. He didn't speak to her, didn't even look at her. He simply changed clothes and lay down, his back turned. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, her heart still racing. In the morning, the tension was thick enough to touch. Daniel left for work without so much as a goodbye. Liam was already outside, sitting on the garden bench, a cup of coffee in his hand. Clara hesitated before joining him. I'm sorry you heard that, he said quietly, not looking at her. She sank onto the bench beside him. You shouldn't have told him the truth. Liam finished for her. Maybe not, but someone had to. Her hands twisted in her lap. Liam, this is making everything harder. He finally looked at her, his gaze steady. I'd rather make things harder than pretend nothing's wrong. Before she could answer, a breeze rustled through the trees, and with it came the faint scent of autumn leaves. For a moment, they just sat there, the unspoken words between them louder than anything they could say. That afternoon, Clara tried to lose herself in her usual routines, tidying the living room, answering emails, preparing dinner. But when Daniel came home, his mood was unreadable. He spoke to her only when necessary, his voice clipped. Over dinner, the silence was unbearable. Finally, Daniel set down his fork. Liam's leaving tomorrow morning. The words hit Clara like a stone to the chest. She glanced at Liam, who said nothing, only kept his eyes on his plate. When the meal ended, Daniel went straight upstairs, leaving the two of them alone in the kitchen. Liam exhaled slowly. I guess this is goodbye. Then, Clara's throat tightened. You don't have to go. Yes, I do, he said, his voice softer now. If I stay, I'll just make things worse for you. He turned to leave, but she caught his wrist. Liam. Her voice trembled. What happens if you go and we never see each other again? His expression darkened. Then I'll have to live with the memory of wanting you, and never having you. Her hand fell away, and before she could speak, he walked out into the night air. She stood there in the kitchen, the sound of his footsteps fading. Her heart caught somewhere between longing and dread. Upstairs, Daniel's voice suddenly called down, sharper than before. Clara, we need to talk. Now. Her stomach knotted. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, forcing her feet to move toward the stairs. Daniel was standing in the bedroom doorway, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. She stepped inside, and he closed the door behind her. What's going on between you and Liam? His tone was calm, but there was an edge beneath it. Nothing, she said quickly. Daniel, you're overthinking. Don't lie to me. Clara. His voice hardened. I saw the way you looked at him, and I saw the way he looked at you. Her pulse thudded in her ears. We've just been talking, that's all. Daniel's jaw clenched. Talking, right? He turned away, pacing to the window. Do you know how it feels to watch your own brother slide into your life like he belongs there? That's not what's happening, she insisted, but even to her own ears, the words sounded weak. Daniel faced her again, his eyes sharp. Then tell me you don't care about him. Tell me you haven't thought about him. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her silence was answer enough. Daniel's shoulders tensed. He's leaving in the morning. And I expect you to let this end right here, Clara. If you want this marriage to survive, you stay away from him. She swallowed hard, nodding because it was the only thing she could do. That night, she couldn't sleep. Daniel's breathing beside her was deep and even, but her thoughts were restless. She kept replaying the moments with Liam, the looks, the words, the quiet understanding that had grown between them. Just before dawn, she rose quietly from bed and stepped into the hallway. A faint light spilled from the living room. Liam was sitting on the couch, fully dressed, his bag at his feet. You're leaving early, she whispered. I couldn't sleep, he said, his voice low. Didn't want to wake you. They stood there in the dim glow, the unspoken feelings pressing down like the weight of the morning fog outside. I'm sorry for making things harder for you, Liam murmured. You didn't, she said. You just made me see things I can't unsee now. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Liam reached out, his hand brushing hers. It was a small touch, but it sent a rush through her chest. Clara, he whispered. If things were different, don't, she cut in, her voice breaking, because they're not. His hand slipped away and he picked up his bag. Goodbye, Clara. She watched him walk to the door, every step feeling like a piece of her was being taken with him. He opened it, paused as if he wanted to turn back but didn't. When the door clicked shut, the house felt unbearably quiet. She stood there for what felt like hours before Daniel's voice came from upstairs. Still groggy from sleep, Clara, who was at the door. Her heart jumped. She turned toward the stairs, forcing her voice to sound steady. No one, just the wind. Daniel didn't answer right away, but she heard his slow footsteps retreat into the bedroom. She exhaled, leaning against the wall for support. She told herself it was over, that Liam was gone for good. But as the morning light grew, she couldn't ignore the strange pull inside her. It felt like unfinished words still hung in the air. By mid-morning, Daniel had left for work. Clara wandered to the garden, hoping the fresh air would clear her head. That was when she saw him. Liam. He was standing near the old oak tree at the far end of the yard, partially hidden from view. He wasn't carrying his bag anymore. Her breath caught. I thought you left, she whispered when she reached him. I tried, he admitted. I got halfway to the bus station and thought I couldn't go. She shook her head. You can't be here, Liam. If Daniel finds out, I know the risk, he said, his eyes searching hers. But I needed to see you one last time. Really see you. Not from across a room. Not while pretending I don't care. Her chest tightened painfully. This isn't fair. To him. Or to me. Maybe not, Liam said quietly. But what's fair about living a life that feels half empty? Clara closed her eyes, the truth of his words pressing against the walls she had tried to build. Liam, she murmured, we can't. I'm not asking for forever. He interrupted, softly, just one moment. Tell me I'm not the only one who feels this. Her pulse was racing now, every instinct telling her to walk away, but her feet stayed rooted to the ground. The sound of a car door slamming made her flinch. She turned and saw Daniel's car pulling into the driveway hours earlier than usual. Liam's jaw tightened. Go inside, he said quickly. I'll leave the back way. But Daniel had already stepped out of the car, his eyes scanning the yard. Clara, his voice was sharp now. What's going on? She froze, her mind racing. Liam stood a few paces behind her, his presence impossible to hide. Daniel's gaze shifted, and the moment his eyes landed on his brother, the air seemed to shatter. Daniel's gaze locked on Liam, and his expression darkened instantly. What are you doing here? I thought you were gone. Liam didn't move. I was, but I came back. Daniel's voice was sharp. Why? Clara stepped forward quickly, her hands trembling. Daniel, please stay out of this. Clara, he cut in, his eyes still fixed on Liam. I want to hear it from him. Liam's shoulders squared. Because there's something you're refusing to see, and I couldn't leave without saying it to your face. Daniel's jaw tightened. Don't do this. Do what? Tell you that you've stopped caring, that you've let her fade into the background, like she doesn't matter. Liam's voice was steady, but there was heat beneath it. Daniel's eyes flashed. And you think you can just step in? That you can replace me? No, Liam said, firmly. I think she deserves someone who notices her, someone who actually listens. The air between them crackled. Clara's heart pounded, her gaze darting between the two men. This is my wife, Daniel said, his voice low and dangerous. Not yours? And yet, Liam replied quietly, she's been more alone with you than she's ever been with me. The words hit like a blow. Daniel took a step forward, but Clara moved quickly between them. Stop it, both of you. The tension was unbearable. Daniel's breathing was ragged now, his hands clenched at his sides. Finally, he turned to Clara. Is this true? Have you felt something for him? She froze, her throat tightening. Every answer felt like a betrayal to someone. Daniel's voice sharpened. Clara, yes or no? She looked at him, then at Liam. The truth was there in her silence. Daniel stepped back as if her quiet had spoken louder than any words. I see, he said, his voice cold now. So that's what this has been all along. Liam took a step closer to her, his voice soft. Clara, but before he could finish, Daniel cut in, his tone final. You need to choose. Right now. Her breath caught. Daniel, no, he said firmly. Either it's him, or it's me. But you don't get to keep both in your life. The world seemed to go still, every sound fading except for the thudding of her own heartbeat. Liam's eyes searched hers, waiting. Daniel's stare was unyielding. Clara's lips parted. The beginning of an answer forming. Clara's lips parted. The beginning of an answer forming, but the words tangled in her throat. She looked at Daniel, his face tense and guarded, then at Liam, whose eyes held a quiet plea. Her voice shook. I can't make that choice right now. Daniel's jaw tightened. That's not good enough. It's the truth, she said softly. If I answer you in this moment, it'll be out of pressure, not honesty, and we'll all regret it. Liam's gaze stayed on her, patient but pained. Daniel turned away, running a hand through his hair, his frustration palpable. So what happens now, Clara? We just stand here forever. She took a deep breath. No, I need space. From both of you. The words seemed to surprise even her. Daniel spun back toward her. You're walking away from me. I'm walking away from this. From all of this tension and anger, she said, her voice trembling, but steady enough to hold. I need to figure out who I am without either of you telling me. For a moment, no one moved. The autumn air hung heavy, carrying the faint scent of leaves and rain. Then Daniel stepped back, his expression unreadable. Fine, he said at last. If that's what you want. Liam's voice was low. Clara, if you go, does that mean it means I'm not choosing right now? She interrupted, her eyes meeting his. But it doesn't mean I didn't feel what I felt. The honesty in her words seemed to cut deeper than any rejection. Liam's lips pressed into a thin line, and he gave a single, slow nod. She turned toward the house, her steps slow, each one heavier than the last. Inside, she could still feel their eyes on her from the yard. She closed the door, leaning against it, her chest tight with the weight of what she had just done. For the rest of the day, she moved through the house like a ghost. The clock ticked, the wind rattled the windows, and yet she felt suspended between two lives, one she had built for years, and one that had only just begun to take shape. When night fell, she stood at the upstairs window, looking out at the darkened street. Daniel's car was gone, so was Liam. The quiet was absolute. In that stillness, she whispered to herself, what have I done? And though no one answered, the ache in her chest told her that whatever choice she eventually made, none of their lives would ever be the same.